Standing in my cousin Sarah's backyard, surrounded by family celebrating her engagement, I felt my phone vibrate. Mom's text glowed on the screen. Locks changed. You have no home. My fingers trembled, but I kept smiling at Aunt Martha's joke about wedding planning. Nobody noticed my world collapsing. I slipped the phone into my pocket, grabbed another lemonade, and laughed louder than anyone. Inside my mind raced through 28 years of being their perfect daughter. Apparently, perfection had an expiration date. The afternoon sun painted golden streaks across Sarah's parents' manicured lawn in Cherry Creek, Denver's most exclusive neighborhood. Their colonial-style house stood like a monument to our family's success, with its wraparound porch and perfectly trimmed hedges that cost more to maintain than most people's rent. I watched relatives cluster in small groups, champagne flutes catching light as they toasted my cousin's happiness. Sarah looked radiant in her sundress, showing off the 3-carat diamond that her investment banker fiancé had presented 2 weeks ago. The proposal story had already become family legend: helicopter, ride over the Rockies, private dinner at a mountain lodge, the works. Everything our family did had to be grand, memorable, worthy of the Martinez name. I smoothed my navy cocktail dress, the one Mother had approved for family gatherings. "Lucille, you represent us wherever you go," she'd said when she bought it for me last Christmas. "Never forget that appearances matter." The irony of her words now burned like acid in my throat. My position as marketing director at a tech startup had been a source of tension for months. Despite my 6-figure salary and recent promotion, my parents saw it as rebellion. "You belong at your father's firm," Mother had insisted during our argument last week. "Martinez daughters don't work for strangers." The confrontation had been brutal. I'd finally found my voice after years of suffocating under their expectations. "I'm building something of my own," I'd told them. "I'm good at what I do. My team respects me. I'm happy." Father's response had been cold, calculated. "Happiness doesn't pay for the lifestyle you've grown accustomed to, Lucille. Don't be naive." Now navigating through clusters of relatives, I caught glimpses of my parents holding court near the pool. Mother, in her signature pearls and designer dress, gestured animatedly while recounting some story that had Uncle Diego laughing. Father stood beside her, his silver hair gleaming bourbon in hand, the picture of patriarchal authority. They didn't look like people who had just made their daughter homeless. "Lucille, there you are." Cousin Patricia waved me over to where she stood with my younger brother Marcus. At 24, Marcus still lived at home working at Father's commercial real estate firm, the golden child who never questioned, never resisted. Marcus avoided my eyes as I approached. His girlfriend Emma, a petite blonde who worked as a paralegal, offered me a tight smile. Something flickered in her expression, gone before I could identify it. "We were just talking about your big promotion," Patricia said, genuine warmth in her voice. "Marketing director at 28. I'm so proud of you." "Thanks, Pat." I accepted her hug, noticing how Marcus shifted uncomfortably. "Mom and Dad must be thrilled," Patricia continued. "Your mother was just telling Mrs. Chen about how successful all her children are." The mention of my parents sent fresh pain through my chest. I glanced at Marcus, searching his face. "Were they... That's interesting." Marcus finally met my gaze, and what I saw there confirmed my worst suspicions. Guilt. Raw, unmistakable guilt. "Marcus," I said quietly, "could I talk to you for a minute?" "We're actually about to get food," he said quickly, too quickly. "Emma's starving, right, babe?" Emma nodded, but her eyes darted between us with obvious discomfort. "Maybe we could all get food together." "Sure." I forced brightness into my voice. "Lead the way." As we walked toward the catering station, I studied my brother's tense shoulders. We'd been close once before Father started pitting us against each other, before the comparisons and competitions, before Marcus learned that siding with our parents guaranteed an easier life. The spread was impressive carved prime rib grilled salmon arrays of salads and sides that would feed twice our number. The Martinez family didn't do anything halfway. I selected items mechanically, my mind racing. Bum, beautiful party. I commented, testing the waters. Sarah's parents really went all out. They always do, Marcus agreed, relaxing slightly. Remember, Sarah's Sweet 16, the one with the actual circus performers. And you tried to juggle after watching them. I laughed, the memory temporarily softening the edges of my pain. Broke Aunt Gloria's antique vase. God, Mom was furious, he smiled despite himself. She made me work all summer to pay for it. $500 for one vase, I mused. I helped you with half, remember? The reminder of our former closeness hung between us. Marcus's smile faded. Lucy, did you know? The question escaped before I could stop it. Emma inhaled sharply. Marcus went pale. Did you know about the locks? I pressed, keeping my voice low controlled. Marcus set down his plate with trembling hands. It's not what you think. Really? Because what I think is that my parents changed the locks while I was at this party, and my brother knew about it. I tilted my head, studying him. Am I wrong? They said you were making destructive choices, he whispered. That job, that guy you're dating. His name is James, and he's a pediatric surgeon, I interrupted. What's destructive about that? He's not... Marcus struggled. He's not who they picked for you. The twisted logic of it almost made me laugh. So they made me homeless. They said it was temporary, just until you came to your senses. He couldn't meet my eyes. They're giving your room to Emma and me. We're engaged. I was going to tell you after the party. The betrayal cut deeper than any knife. My baby brother, who I'd protected from bullies, helped with homework, supported through every crisis, he'd traded our bond for our parents' approval and my childhood bedroom. Emma looked sick. Marcus, you said she knew. You said she agreed to move out. You told her I agreed. Incredulity colored my tone. What else did you tell her, Marcus? Nothing? Just that. That you were going through some stuff and needed space. He ran his hand through his hair, our father's gesture when cornered. They said it was for your own good. I turned to Emma, decision made. How long have you two been engaged? 3 months, she admitted quietly. Your parents have been planning the wedding. They're paying for everything. 3 months. The timeline clicked into place. 3 months ago, I'd started dating James. 3 months ago, I'd refused a position at father's firm. 3 months ago, I'd started living my own life. Congratulations, I said with genuine calm. I'm sure you'll be very happy in my former room. I hope you enjoy the window seat. I spent 18 years reading there. Lucy, Marcus reached for me, but I stepped back. No, really, I mean it. I smiled, the expression feeling foreign but necessary. You made your choice. We all have to live with our choices. As I walked away, Emma's voice drifted after me. What did we just do? Marcus's response was too quiet to hear, but the defeat in his tone spoke volumes. My little brother, the golden child, was beginning to realize that our parents' approval came with a price he might not have fully calculated. Leaving Marcus and Emma behind, I wove through the party like a ghost at my own wake. The irony wasn't lost on me here. I stood surrounded by family officially homeless and dispossessed while they celebrated love and new beginnings. My phone weighed heavy in my pocket, that text message burning like a brand against my hip. I paused by the dessert table where Aunt Martha held court with her famous double chocolate cake. At 72, she remained the family's unofficial historian-keeper of secrets, observer of everything. Her sharp brown eyes tracked my approach with interest. Lucille, darling, you look lovely, she said, but her gaze lingered on my face with concern. Though perhaps a bit pale. Are you feeling well? Just the heat. I deflected, accepting a glass of iced tea from a passing server. Beautiful party, isn't it? Indeed, your parents certainly know how to make an impression. Something in her tone caught my attention. Speaking of which, I haven't seen you talking with them much today. I sipped my tea carefully. We've all been mingling. You know how these events are. Hmm. Aunt Martha cut herself a small slice of cake movements deliberate. I remember another family party, 15 years ago now. Your Uncle Robert's 40th birthday. Similar beautiful day, similar gathering. She paused, fork suspended. That was right before he moved to Seattle, wasn't it? Uncle Robert. I hadn't thought about him in years. He'd been father's younger brother, successful in his own right until he'd committed the cardinal sin of divorcing his wife, the wife our parents had chosen for him. One day, he was part of every family gathering, the next, he was gone, erased. We children were told he'd chosen to distance himself. I was 13, I murmured. I remember being confused why he stopped coming to holidays. Yes, well, Aunt Martha took a delicate bite. Families can be complicated. Your grandparents had very specific ideas about how things should be done. Those ideas tend to get passed down. Her eyes met mine meaningfully, though not everyone agrees with them. Before I could probe further, Cousin Angela approached with her twin daughters. The conversation shifted to safer topics, school activities, summer plans, anything but family secrets and exile. Yet Aunt Martha's words echoed ideas get passed down. I excused myself, needing space to think. The house's interior offered blessed air conditioning and temporary refuge from watchful eyes. Sarah's family photos lined the hallway, decades of Martinez gatherings captured in silver frames. I studied them like evidence, noting who appeared when who disappeared. My phone buzzed. James checking in. How's the party going? Save me some cake. The normalcy of it nearly broke me. How could I explain that while he was finishing rounds at the hospital, my life had imploded via text message that the man I loved was the crime for which I'd been sentenced to exile? Lucy, Sarah's voice startled me. My cousin stood in the doorway, radiant in her engagement glow. I've been looking everywhere for you. Mom wants to do the toast soon. Of course, I slipped my phone away. Wouldn't miss it. Sarah linked her arm through mine, a gesture we'd done since childhood. I'm so glad you're here. It means everything to have my whole family celebrating with us. The word family stung. We wouldn't be anywhere else. I want you to be a bridesmaid, she continued as we walked. Actually, I want you to be maid of honor. You've always been like the sister I never had. I stopped walking. Sarah, I'm honored, really, but... No buts. She squeezed my arm. I already told your mom and she thinks it's perfect. She said you'd have plenty of time to help with planning now that you're making some life changes. Life changes? My voice sounded strange to my own ears. You know, moving back home, taking that position at your dad's company? Sarah's excitement dimmed at my expression. That is what she meant, right? She made it sound like it was all decided. The scope of my parents' deception crystallized. They hadn't just changed my locks, they'd already begun rewriting my story for public consumption. By the time I realized what happened, everyone would believe I'd chosen to return home to fall in line. Sarah, I began carefully, what exactly did my mother tell you? My cousin's brow furrowed. Just that you were going through a transition, making some big decisions about your future. She seemed really happy about it. Said the family was finally coming back together the way it should be. Did she mention anything else about my job or anything? Well, Sarah lowered her voice. She did say you'd been under a lot of stress, that maybe you'd been making some impulsive choices that weren't really like you. But that's normal, right? Quarter-life crisis and all that. My mom went through the same thing. I knew exactly what Sarah's mother had gone through. She'd tried to start her own business at 30, only to have the family pressure her back into her role as society wife. Now she planned charity galas and smiled at every event. But sometimes I caught her staring into distance with an expression I was beginning to understand. We should get back, I said finally. Don't want to miss the toast. As we returned to the garden, I spotted my parents near the gazebo, positioning themselves for optimal visibility. Mother caught my eye and smiled the kind of smile a snake might give a mouse. She raised her champagne glass slightly, a mock toast to my presence. Father was deep in conversation with his business partners, the Hendersons. Mrs. Henderson's eyes kept drifting to me with what looked like pity. Another piece clicked. They knew. How many others had been told about my impending return to the fold? "Oh, good you found her," Mother's voice carried as we approached. "Lucille, darling, come stand with us for the toast. Family should be together for these moments." The hypocrisy nearly choked me, but I took my place, champagne glass steady in my hand. Uncle Diego stepped forward to speak, his voice booming across the gathering. As he waxed poetic about love and family bonds, I caught fragments of whispered conversations around me. "Told Margaret she's been struggling. That nice doctor boy wasn't suitable anyway. Best thing really coming home." They all knew, or thought they knew. My parents had laid groundwork I hadn't even suspected, preparing everyone for my inevitable capitulation. The marketing professional in me could admire the strategy even as it destroyed me. To Sarah and David, Uncle Diego raised his glass. "May your love story be as beautiful as this day." To Sarah and David, the crowd echoed. I raised my glass, smiled, and drank. The champagne tasted like ashes, but I'd learned long ago how to swallow bitter things with grace. As conversations resumed around me, I felt my phone buzz again. Not James this time, an unknown number. Stepping aside, I glimpsed the message preview. "Ms. Martinez, this is Patricia Chen from Chen and Associates. We've been trying to reach you regarding your grandmother's estate. Please contact us immediately regarding urgent matters requiring your attention." Grandmother's estate. She'd passed 2 years ago, leaving everything in a trust Father managed, or so I'd been told. I looked across the party at my parents, now laughing with other couples their age, secure in their victory. They'd taken my home, attempted to take my future, but apparently their deception ran even deeper than I'd imagined. The marketing director in me understood something they'd forgotten. In their arrogance, every campaign had vulnerabilities, and the best response to an ambush was intelligence. They wanted to play games with my life, fine. But they'd forgotten who taught me how to play. The phone call from the law firm burned in my mind as I navigated back through the party. I needed somewhere private to return that call, somewhere I could process whatever new betrayal awaited. The pool house stood empty at the far end of the property, its French doors offering both seclusion and a view of the festivities. Inside, the air conditioning provided relief from more than just Denver's high-altitude sun. I sank onto a cushioned bench and dialed the number, my fingers surprisingly steady. "Chen and Associates, how may I direct your call?" "This is Lucille Martinez returning Patricia Chen's call about my grandmother's estate." "Oh, Ms. Martinez, thank goodness. Please hold, I'll put you through immediately." The urgency in the receptionist's voice tightened my chest. What could possibly be so urgent about an estate that had been settled 2 years ago? Ms. Martinez." A crisp, professional voice came on the line. "Patricia Chen, I'm so relieved we've finally reached you. We've been trying to contact you for months." Months. I kept my voice low, watching through the windows as my mother laughed at someone's joke. "I haven't received any calls or letters." A significant pause. "We've sent registered letters to your home address. Multiple attempts. They were all signed for by..." Paper rustled. "A Robert Martinez. Your father, I presume." The blood drained from my face. "He signed for my legal correspondence." "I'm afraid so. Ms. Martinez, I think it would be best if we met in person. There are significant matters regarding your grandmother, Eleanor's estate, that require your immediate attention. Are you available Monday morning?" "Ms. Chen, with all due respect, I've just learned my parents have changed the locks on my home. If there's something I need to know..." "Your grandmother established a separate trust in your name," she interrupted, "one your parents may not be aware of. It includes property, liquid assets, and specific instructions that, well, let's just say Eleanor Martinez was a very astute woman who understood family dynamics." My grandmother, even from beyond the grave, she was looking out for me. Tears pricked my eyes. Whoa, there's more. Patricia Chen continued, the trust has specific activation clauses. One of them relates to any attempt by family members to control or coerce you through financial means. If we can document what's happening, it triggers immediate access to your inheritance. I glanced out at my parents, who were now posing for photos with Sarah and her fiancé. How much are we talking about? The downtown Denver condo alone is worth $2.3 million. The investment portfolio is substantially more. Your grandmother was very successful in her own right before she married your grandfather. My legs felt weak. While I'd been building my career from scratch, fighting for every promotion, a fortune had been waiting for me, one my parents had deliberately hidden. Monday morning, I confirmed. What time? 9 a.m. Our offices are in the Republic Plaza building, Ms. Martinez. Be careful. If your parents discover you know about this before we can file the proper paperwork. Understood. Thank you, Ms. Chen. I ended the call and immediately checked my bank accounts on my phone. My hands trembled as I logged into the joint savings account my parents had insisted on maintaining for emergencies. The balance should have been $40,000, my safety net built from bonuses and careful saving. The screen showed $200. They drained it. Probably this morning while I was getting ready for the party. The transaction history showed a transfer to my father's account with a memo, family business investment. My personal checking remained untouched. They couldn't access that, but it held only enough for a month or two of expenses. They'd calculated this perfectly, leaving me just desperate enough to come crawling back. Next, I pulled up my credit cards. Two of them, ones I'd forgotten, were technically under my father's business account, showed as canceled. The apartment I'd been planning to view next week suddenly felt impossibly out of reach. A knock on the pool house door made me jump. Emma peered through the glass alone, her expression troubled. I waved her in. I told Marcus I needed to use the bathroom, she said quickly, closing the door behind her. Lucille, I'm so sorry. I had no idea what was really happening. It's not your fault, I said, meaning it. You're as much a pawn in this as anyone. Emma twisted her engagement ring nervously. There's something else. Something I overheard your mother saying to Mrs. Chen earlier. She glanced back at the party. She mentioned paperwork. Something about power of attorney and medical decisions. She said once you were back home, they could get you the help you needed. My blood ran cold. Help! She made it sound like you were unstable. Said the stress from your job and that relationship had pushed you into making irrational decisions. That they were prepared to take whatever steps necessary to protect you from yourself. The full scope of their plan crystallized with horrifying clarity. This wasn't just about control. They were laying the groundwork to have me declared incompetent. The changed locks, the drained accounts, the whisper campaign about my mental state. All of it led to one conclusion: total legal control over my life. Emma, I said urgently, I need you to remember exactly what she said, word for word if possible. I recorded it. She pulled out her phone with shaking hands. I've been recording conversations since we got engaged. My mother went through a terrible divorce, and she always said to document everything when money is involved. She swiped through her files. Here. My mother's voice flowed from the speaker-cultured and poisonous. Temporary guardianship would be best, just until Lucille stabilizes. Dr. Morrison agrees that sometimes young women need firm guidance when they've lost their way. The paperwork is quite straightforward. We could have everything in place by next week. Dr. Morrison, our family physician who'd been treating us since childhood, who'd prescribed anxiety medication to my mother for years without question, who golfed with my father every Sunday. There's more, Emma whispered, about your brother, about what they threatened if he didn't cooperate. She played another recording. My father this time, Marcus understands family loyalty. Unlike his sister, he knows that stepping out of line has consequences. His medical school applications, his position at the firm, his entire future depends on making the right choices. I'm sure he'll help us help Lucille see reason. So Marcus was trapped too, just in a golden cage instead of cast out entirely. The manipulation ran so deep, had been so carefully orchestrated, that even knowing the truth felt like drowning. "Why are you helping me?" I asked Emma. She met my eyes squarely. "Because I love your brother, but I won't marry into a family that operates like this without fighting back. And because—" She hesitated. "Because I think you're the only one who might be able to stop them." "Keep those recordings safe," I instructed. "Make backups. Email them to yourself. Store them in the cloud, whatever it takes. We might need them." Emma nodded, then checked her watch. "I should get back before Marcus comes looking." As she reached for the door, I called out, "Emma, thank you, and take care of him. He's gonna need someone in his corner when this all comes crashing down." She gave me a sad smile. "I think we all are." Alone again, I stared out at the party continuing in full swing. My family, my blood celebrating while orchestrating my destruction. But they'd made one critical error in their perfectly crafted plan. They'd raised me to be just like them, strategic, ruthless when necessary, and above all, a Martinez who never went down without a fight. I pulled up James's number and sent a quick text. "Family emergency. Can you get me a hotel room for tonight? I'll explain everything later. I love you." His response was immediate. "Already booking. Whatever you need. Love you too." At least I wasn't entirely alone. And with Emma's recordings, a hidden inheritance, and the element of surprise, I had more ammunition than my parents realized. They thought they were closing a trap. Instead, they'd started a war. I emerged from the pool house with renewed purpose, my mother's recorded words echoing in my mind. The party continued its cheerful facade, but now I saw the gathering differently, not as a celebration, but as a chessboard where every conversation could shift the game. Aunt Martha still held court by the dessert table, but now Uncle Diego had joined her, along with several cousins I hadn't spoken to in years. Perfect. Time to plant some seeds of my own. Lucille, cousin Rebecca, waved me over. "We were just talking about that new restaurant downtown, the one that got reviewed in the Times. Didn't you handle their marketing launch?" I smiled, grateful for the opening. "Actually, yes. It was one of my team's biggest successes this quarter. We increased their reservations by 300% in the first month." "That's incredible," Uncle Diego said, genuinely impressed. "Your mother mentioned you were making some career changes, though." There it was, the narrative already spreading. I kept my expression pleasantly neutral. Did she? "That's interesting considering I just got promoted. I'm actually expanding my team, hiring 2 new strategists." I pulled out my phone, showing them the company announcement. "See, just posted yesterday." Confusion flickered across Diego's face. "But Maria said—" "You know how Mom worries," I interjected smoothly. "She's always thought corporate life was too stressful for me. But honestly, I've never been happier. The CEO is even talking about making me a partner within the year." "Partner?" Aunt Martha's eyes sharpened with interest. "At your age, that's quite remarkable." "Well, when you land accounts like Morrison Tech and bring in 7 figures in revenue—" I let the implication hang. Money talked in the Martinez family. Success even louder. Rebecca leaned in. "Morrison Tech, aren't they the ones developing that new medical software?" "Exactly, actually." I lowered my voice conspiratorially. "James introduced me to their CFO. You know how these doctor networks are. His connections have been invaluable for business." "James," Diego asked, "this is the doctor Maria mentioned?" I laughed, the sound carefully calibrated. Did she make him sound like some random intern? "Dr. James Chen is the head of pediatric surgery at Children's Hospital. Published in medical journals, speaks at conferences. We've been together almost a year now." I showed them a photo from last month's hospital gala. James in his tuxedo, me in an evening gown, surrounded by Denver's medical elite. "He's quite handsome," Rebecca observed, "and successful. I don't understand why I—" Because he's not who my parents picked, I said simply, letting a touch of sadness color my voice. You know how they are about controlling every aspect of our lives. Remember when Marcus wanted to study music? The group exchanged glances. Everyone remembered that fight. Marcus's dream of attending Juilliard crushed under father's insistence on business school. Or when Sophia wanted to marry that engineer, I continued referencing our cousin who'd eloped 5 years ago and hadn't been invited to family gatherings since. That was different, Diego said uncomfortably. He wasn't suitable. Because he was Colombian instead of Spanish, I challenged gently. He owns a successful firm now, by the way. They have 2 beautiful children that our family has never met. Silence settled over the group. These were truths everyone knew, but no one discussed the casualties of the Martinez family's rigid expectations. Aunt Martha spoke first. Your grandmother never approved of such rigid thinking. She built her own textile business from nothing before she married your grandfather. I didn't know that, I said truthfully. My parents never mentioned she had her own business. Oh yes, very successful too. She only sold it when the children came along, but she always regretted it. Martha's gaze grew distant. She told me once that she'd made sure her granddaughters would never have to make the same choice. My heart raced. Another confirmation of the inheritance waiting for me. Speaking of family businesses, I redirected, spotting an opportunity. Is Robert still in Seattle? I've been thinking about him lately. The group shifted uncomfortably. Uncle Robert remained a taboo subject. Last I heard, he was doing very well, Martha said defiantly. His architectural firm designed that new museum wing. Perhaps it's time someone reached out. I'd love his contact information, I said. If anyone has it. I might, Diego admitted quietly. We email occasionally. Don't tell your father. Of course not. I squeezed his arm. Family is complicated enough without adding more conflict. As I moved through the party, I repeated variations of this conversation. To the younger cousins, I emphasized my career success and independence. To the elders, I highlighted James's credentials and stability. To the business associates, I dropped hints about potential partnerships my company was exploring. Each interaction was strategic, designed to counter my parents' narrative before it could solidify. Marketing 101. Control the message before your competition defines it for you. I found myself near the bar where several of Father's business partners had gathered. Mr. Henderson was speaking animatedly about some development deal, but his wife kept shooting me sympathetic glances. Lucille, Mrs. Henderson touched my elbow gently. How are you? Dear, your mother mentioned you've been under some strain. Did she? I accepted a glass of water from the bartender. That's sweet of her to worry, but honestly, I've never felt better. Success can be demanding, but it's also exhilarating. Success. Mr. Henderson turned from his conversation. Robert's been telling us you might be joining the family firm. I'm afraid there's been a misunderstanding, I said pleasantly. I have a legally binding contract with my current company. Besides, I could never leave my team right when we're about to close the Pemberton account. His eyes widened. Pemberton Industries, the pharmaceutical company. The very same. 12-month campaign, multi-million-dollar budget. I smiled. Though I probably shouldn't discuss details. Client confidentiality and all. Of course. He looked impressed despite himself. Robert never mentioned you were working at that level. Well, you know Dad. He prefers to focus on Marcus's achievements. No bitterness in my tone, just gentle acknowledgement. It's understandable. Marcus fits the vision he has for the family legacy. And you don't, Mrs. Henderson asked perceptively. I forge my own path, I said simply. Grandmother Eleanor would have understood. At the mention of my grandmother, something shifted in Mrs. Henderson's expression. Eleanor was a remarkable woman. Did you know she helped me start my first boutique, gave me business advice when everyone else said a doctor's wife should just host parties? I had no idea, another piece of the puzzle. What happened to the boutique? Oh, it's a chain now? 15 locations across Colorado. Pride colored her voice. Your grandmother was my first investor, said women needed to support each other's dreams. She sounds like someone I would have loved to know better, I said honestly. I was young when she passed. 26 is hardly young, Mrs. Henderson corrected, though I suppose your parents preferred to handle the estate matters themselves. Warning bells chimed. She knew something. They said it was complicated, I ventured, legal things I wouldn't understand. Mrs. Henderson and her husband exchanged a look. Lucille, she said carefully, if you ever need advice about complicated legal things, my brother is an estate attorney, one who doesn't golf with your father. I filed that information away. Thank you, that's very kind. As they moved on, I realized the tide was turning. My parents had expected me to crumble to come begging. Instead, I was building alliances, gathering intelligence, preparing for a battle they didn't know had already begun. Emma appeared at my elbow. Marcus, nowhere in sight. Your mother is looking for you. She wants a family photo by the gazebo. A family photo. The irony was almost too much. Thank you for the warning, I murmured. Where is Marcus? Having a heated discussion with your father by the study. I think he's trying to convince him this is all going too far. Good. Let them fracture from within while I solidified my position without. One more thing, Emma whispered urgently. I heard your mother on the phone with someone named Dr. Morrison. She mentioned Monday morning something about documentation being ready. Monday, the same day as my meeting with the estate attorney. They were moving fast. Then I'll have to move faster, I said quietly. Thank you, Emma. You're taking a real risk helping me. Someone has to, she replied. Your family can't keep destroying people and calling it love. As I made my way toward the gazebo for the commanded photo, I saw my parents standing together, perfectly positioned in the golden afternoon light. Mother's smile was triumphant, father's expression satisfied. They looked like people who had already won. They were about to learn that their daughter had inherited more than just the Martinez name. I'd inherited grandmother Eleanor's fighting spirit, and I was about to use every weapon at my disposal. The war for my freedom had begun, and I intended to win. The family photo session at the gazebo became an exercise in psychological warfare. My mother positioned me between her and Marcus, her manicured hand, gripping my shoulder with possessive force disguised as maternal affection. Shh, smile, Lucille, she commanded through her own frozen grin. We want everyone to see how happy our family is. The photographer, a young woman with an artistic eye, framed shot after shot while I maintained my facade. Father stood rigid beside Marcus, who looked like he might bolt at any moment. The tension radiating from our group could have powered downtown Denver. Be beautiful, the photographer chirped. Now just the immediate family. As cousins and aunts stepped aside, Emma caught my eye from behind the photographer. She held up her phone, subtly indicating she was recording again. Smart woman. Every moment of this charade might prove useful later. Robert. Mother called to my father. Put your arm around Lucille. Show everyone what a close family we are. His arm felt like a shackle across my shoulders. You're making a scene with your absence, he murmured low enough that only I could hear. Stop sulking and play your part. I learned from the best, I whispered back, smile never wavering. The flash popped repeatedly, capturing our dysfunctional tableau for posterity. Would these photos surface someday in court documents? Evidence of the last time the Martinez family stood united before the foundation crumbled. Perfect, Mother declared when the photographer finished. These will look wonderful in the society pages. The Martinez family celebrates love and togetherness. As the group dispersed, Emma approached with calculated casualness. Mrs. Martinez, would you mind if I stole Lucille for a moment? I wanted to ask her advice about wedding venues, since she has such wonderful taste. Mother's eyes narrowed slightly, but social protocols demanded agreement. Of course, dear. After all, you'll be sisters soon. Family should help family. The irony of her words followed us as Emma guided me toward a quiet corner of the garden away from prying ears. "We need to talk," Emma said urgently, once we were alone. "I've been going through Marcus's files." "You've been what?" "I know it sounds terrible, but something felt wrong about all this." She glanced around nervously. "Last night he left his laptop open. There were emails, Lucille, dozens of them between your parents and some doctor planning this for months." My stomach dropped. "Dr. Morrison, not just him. There's a Dr. Reeves, too, a psychiatrist. They've been building a case file on you. Every time you disagreed with them, every argument, every independent decision, it's all been documented as evidence of your deteriorating mental state." The calculating coldness of it stole my breath. While I'd been living my life, building my career, falling in love, they'd been constructing a paper trail to destroy me. "But that's not the worst part," Emma continued, her voice dropping. "There are financial documents, your grandmother's will, but not the version that was filed with the court. This one is different. It mentions specific provisions for you that aren't in the official version." "You mean—" "I think your parents filed a fraudulent will." Emma pulled out her phone, showing me photos she'd taken of the documents. "Look at the date. This version was signed 2 weeks before the one they filed, and it's witnessed by different people, including Patricia Chen." Patricia Chen, the attorney who'd called me today. The pieces were falling into place with devastating clarity. "There's more," Emma said. "I found correspondence about a property downtown, a penthouse condo in your name that your parents have been renting out, collecting the income. They've been stealing from you for 2 years, Lucille." Rage pure and crystalline flooded through me, but I couldn't afford to lose control now, not when Emma was risking everything to help me. "Why?" I asked, though I suspected the answer. "Why would you dig into this? You're engaged to Marcus. This could destroy your relationship." Emma's expression hardened with resolve. "Because I grew up watching my mother stay silent while my father destroyed her life piece by piece. She thought keeping quiet, keeping the peace would protect us kids. Instead, it taught us that love meant accepting abuse. She met my eyes directly. I won't repeat her mistakes, and I won't let Marcus become his father." "Does Marcus know what you found?" "Not yet, but he knows something. He's been having nightmares, anxiety attacks. The guilt is eating him alive." She twisted her engagement ring. "Your parents threatened to destroy his medical school applications if he didn't cooperate. They have connections at every school he applied to. One word from your father and his dreams are over." So they trapped him too. I felt a surge of protective anger for my little brother, just more elegantly than me. "There's a way out," Emma said suddenly, "for all of us, but it's going to require trust and careful timing." What do you mean?" She looked around again, then leaned closer. "I've been in contact with someone who went through this before and survived." My heart skipped. "Uncle Robert!" "He reached out to me last month. Said he'd heard about the engagement and wanted to warn me what I was marrying into." A bitter smile crossed her face. "Turns out your parents tried the same thing with him 15 years ago. The mental health angle, the financial control, everything, but he had something they didn't expect." "What?" "Evidence. And a very good lawyer." Emma pulled out a business card. "He gave me this. Said if things ever got bad to call. The lawyer specializes in family financial abuse cases." I took the card with trembling fingers. "Jonathan Merkel, attorney at law, specializing in estate fraud and financial elder abuse." "Uncle Robert escaped." I breathed. "More than escaped. He won. Got a restraining order, recovered stolen assets, and built a life completely free of their influence." Emma's eyes blazed with determination. "He said the key was documentation and moving fast. Once they realize you're fighting back, they'll escalate quickly." "Monday," I said, remembering. "They're planning something Monday with Dr. Morrison." "Then we have less than 48 hours to get you protected." Emma glanced at her watch. "I need to get back before Marcus notices I'm gone, but Lucille, please be careful. Document everything. Record conversations if you can, and whatever you do, don't go anywhere alone with them. What about you if they find out you helped me? I'm protecting myself too, and Marcus even if he doesn't realize it yet. She squeezed my hand. We're gonna get through this, all of us. As Emma walked away, I stood alone in the garden, processing the magnitude of what I'd learned. This wasn't just about control or family expectations. This was systematic fraud, theft, and attempted psychological abuse. My parents hadn't just crossed a line, they'd obliterated it. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Lucille, this is Uncle Robert. Emma said you might need help. I've been waiting 15 years to repay what your parents did to me. Call when you're safe. We have work to do. Then another from James. Hotel booked, presidential suite at the Brown Palace. Already spoke to security. No one gets information about you without your direct consent. I'm here when you're ready. Allies. I had actual allies. For the first time since reading that horrible text, I felt something other than shock and betrayal. I felt hope. The party continued around me, oblivious to the tectonic shifts occurring beneath its polished surface. My parents held court secure in their victory. Marcus struggled under the weight of guilt. Emma played the perfect future daughter-in-law while gathering ammunition. And I stood in my cousin's garden, no longer the victim they'd intended to create. I was a Martinez woman with my grandmother's fighting spirit, my uncle's playbook for survival, and a growing army of supporters. They wanted to destroy me. They'd better be prepared for the consequences, because I wasn't just going to survive this. I was going to expose every lie, reclaim every stolen penny, and ensure they never had the power to hurt anyone in our family again. The real battle was about to begin. As the sun began its descent toward the mountains, casting long shadows across the party, I made my excuses and slipped away to my car. My hands shook as I sat in the driver's seat, but not from fear, from adrenaline, from purpose. I called Uncle Robert. Lucille. His voice, unheard for 15 years, was deeper than I remembered, but carried the same warmth. I'm so sorry it's come to this. Uncle Robert, why? Emotion threatened to overwhelm me. I missed you. We all did. I missed you too, sweetheart. But your parents made it clear that contact with me meant consequences for you and Marcus. A pause. Though I see they've decided to create consequences anyway. Emma showed me what she found. The will, the fraud. Listen carefully, he interrupted. Are you somewhere safe, away from the party? In my car, alone. Good. First, do not go back to that house tonight. Not for clothes, not for documents, nothing. They'll use any opportunity to escalate the situation or claim you're unstable. Oh, but my things are just things. Your safety and legal position matter more. His tone was firm, learned from experience. Now, Patricia Chen called you today. Yes, we have a meeting Monday morning. Excellent. Patricia was your grandmother's personal attorney, not the family lawyer. That's crucial. Your grandmother suspected something like this might happen. He sighed. She watched what they tried to do to me and took precautions. The other will Emma found is the real one. Your parents filed a forgery after drugging your grandmother in her final days to sign an amended version. Patricia has the security footage from the care facility that proves it. My world tilted. They drugged their own mother. Power and money make people do terrible things, Lucille, even to family, especially to family. Bitterness crept into his voice, but your grandmother was smarter than they realized. She set up safeguards they don't know about. Like what? Call Patricia now. Tell her you need an emergency injunction filed tonight. She has a judge on standby, yes, on a Saturday. Your grandmother made sure Patricia would have everything needed to protect you immediately. How could she have known? Because they tried it with me first. After I refused to marry the woman they chose, they attempted to have me declared mentally incompetent. Sound familiar? His laugh was harsh. I barely escaped with my sanity and a fraction of my inheritance. Eleanor learned from that. She made sure you'd be protected. I gripped the steering wheel. What do I do after calling Patricia? Document everything, every text, every conversation, every witness to their behavior today. Emma's recordings are gold. Then get to that hotel and stay there. Don't tell anyone where you are except Patricia, James, and me. What about Marcus? He's trapped too. One battle at a time, sweetheart. Secure your position first. Then we can help Marcus. His voice softened. I know it's hard. I left my siblings behind too. But you can't save anyone if you're drowning. I understand. I took a shaky breath. Uncle Robert, thank you for watching out for me even when you couldn't be there. Family isn't about blood, Lucille. It's about who shows up when you need them. Your grandmother knew that. So do I. He paused. Call Patricia now. Time is critical. I ended the call and immediately dialed Patricia Chen. She answered on the first ring. Ms. Martinez, I've been expecting your call. Robert texted that you'd be reaching out tonight. Ms. Chen, I need help. My parents have changed your locks, drained your accounts, and are planning to file for guardianship Monday morning, she finished. I know, we've been monitoring the situation. You have. Your grandmother hired a private investigator 3 years ago to watch for exactly this scenario. We have documentation of everything, including your father's forgery of the will. Her tone was professionally satisfied. I must say your parents were remarkably predictable in their methods. Can you stop them? Already in motion, Judge Harrison is reviewing our emergency injunction as we speak. By morning, your parents will be legally barred from accessing any assets in your name, attempting to contact you, or proceeding with any guardianship actions. Relief flooded through me. Just like that. Oh, it's far from over, but this stops the immediate threat. Ms. Martinez, your grandmother's legitimate will leaves you significantly more than your parents realized. The downtown penthouse is just the beginning. There's an investment portfolio worth approximately $8 million, plus several commercial properties. $8 million. I couldn't process the number. Your parents have been collecting rent on those properties illegally, will be pursuing full restitution plus damages. Patricia's voice carried steel. But first, we need you safe. Are you going somewhere secure tonight? Yes, the Brown Palace. Excellent choice. I'll have security briefed to watch for any attempts by your family to contact you. Can you come to my office tomorrow instead of Monday? I'd like to file additional motions before they realize what's happening. Of course. One more thing, Ms. Martinez. Your grandmother left you a letter. She insisted I give it to you personally when this day came. She was very specific, when, not if. Tears blurred my vision. Even in death, Grandmother Eleanor was protecting me. Bring anyone you trust completely, Patricia continued. This will be easier with support. After ending the call, I sat in the gathering dusk, watching the party continue through my rearview mirror. Fairy lights were coming on, twinkling like stars against the Colorado sky. Inside that bubble of false perfection, my parents believed they'd won. Tomorrow, they'd wake to a very different reality. I started my car and pulled out my phone one last time. In the family group chat, I typed, "Thank you all for a lovely evening. Sarah, your engagement party was perfect. I wish you and David every happiness." Then I drove away from my past toward a future my grandmother had secured for me before I even knew I'd need it. As I merged onto the highway, my phone exploded with texts. I ignored them all except one from Emma. "They know you left. Your mother is furious but trying to hide it. Marcus looks relieved. Stay strong." The Brown Palace Hotel rose before me in all its historic grandeur, a castle in the heart of downtown Denver. James waited in the lobby, still in his scrubs from an emergency surgery. The sight of him nearly undid my composure. "Hey," he said softly, pulling me into his arms. "I've got you." For the first time all day, I let myself break. Safe in the embrace of someone who loved me for exactly who I was, I sobbed for the family I'd lost and the battle still ahead. But underneath the grief was something stronger: determination. My parents thought they'd raised a daughter who would crumble under pressure. Instead, they'd created a warrior. And warriors don't back down. Sunday morning arrived with crystalline clarity, the Denver skyline sharp against an azure sky. I'd barely slept, my mind racing through legal strategies and family revelations. James had held me through the night, asking no questions, simply offering presence and strength. And Patricia Chen's office occupied the top floor of Republic Plaza, offering panoramic views of the city. The space breathed power and discretion, exactly what I needed. James accompanied me, his steady presence, a reminder that I wasn't facing this alone. Ms. Martinez. Patricia stood to greet us, her silver hair gleaming in the morning light. She was younger than I'd expected, perhaps early 50s, with eyes that missed nothing. And Dr. Chen, I presume? Thank you for seeing us on a Sunday, I said, settling into a leather chair that probably cost more than my stolen savings. Your grandmother paid me very well to be available whenever needed. Patricia opened a thick folder. Shall we begin with the good news or the complicated news? Good news. I could use some. She smiled. Judge Harrison signed the emergency injunction at 6 this morning. Your parents are now legally prohibited from accessing any assets in your name, attempting to contact you, or pursuing any guardianship proceedings. That fast. We had compelling evidence. The private investigator's reports, Emma's recordings, and... She pulled out a tablet. Security footage from the care facility showing your father entering your grandmother's room with the family lawyer the day the fraudulent will was signed. Your grandmother was clearly under heavy sedation. My stomach turned. Seeing the truth in stark video was different from hearing about it. Now the complicated news, Patricia continued. Your parents have been using your inheritance to fund their lifestyle for 2 years. The forensic accountants are still calculating the full extent, but it's substantial. Recovering it all will take time. How much are we talking about? Between rent collection, investment gains they've diverted, and outright theft, conservative estimate is $3.2 million. She watched my face carefully. Plus the penthouse, which they've been renting for $5,000 a month. $5,000 a month for 2 years. $120,000, plus interest, plus punitive damages for fraud. Patricia's smile was sharp. Your grandmother chose her legal representation well. She pulled out an envelope, cream-colored and heavy. My name was written across it in grandmother's distinctive handwriting. She wanted you to have this when the time came, Patricia said softly. I opened it with trembling fingers. My dearest Lucille, if you're reading this, then my fears have come to pass. I'm sorry, my darling girl. Sorry I couldn't protect you while I lived. Sorry you're facing this pain. But I am not sorry for the preparations I've made. Your parents, my son and his wife, have forgotten that Martinez women come from fighters. My mother built a business empire in Mexico before women could vote. I built my own fortune before I met your grandfather. And you, my brilliant granddaughter, will build something even greater. They will try to break you with family loyalty and guilt. Don't let them. Family that truly loves you doesn't try to cage you. Robert learned this lesson painfully. You will learn it triumphantly. Everything I've left you comes with only one condition: live freely. Love whom you choose. Work where you thrive. Be the woman you're meant to be, not the doll they want to display. Patricia has my complete trust. So does Robert, who watches over you even in exile. Trust them as I did. Remember, you are not betraying family by protecting yourself. They betrayed family the moment they put control over love. All my love, Grandmother Eleanor. The penthouse has the most beautiful sunrise views. I hope you'll watch many with someone who deserves you. I wiped away tears, passing the letter to James. Patricia waited patiently, sliding a tissue box across the desk. Your grandmother was a remarkable woman, she said. Now let's discuss strategy. Your parents will likely hear about the injunction by noon when their lawyer contacts the court. We should expect immediate retaliation. What can they do legally? Very little. but they'll try social warfare instead, damage your reputation, turn family against you, make you seem like the ungrateful daughter. She leaned forward. Which is why I suggest we get ahead of it. How? Oh, full transparency. Send a family-wide communication explaining the situation factually. Include some of the evidence. Let them judge based on truth, not your parents' spin. It felt like dropping a nuclear bomb on Sunday dinner. That would destroy any chance of reconciliation. Ms. Martinez, Patricia's voice gentled. What reconciliation? They tried to steal your freedom and fortune. They're not seeking forgiveness, they're seeking submission. She was right. I thought of Marcus trapped in his golden cage, of Emma fighting for both of them, of Uncle Robert exiled for 15 years, of Cousin Sophia erased for loving wrong. I'll do it, I decided, but first I want to see the penthouse. Patricia smiled. I hoped you'd say that. I have the keys right here. An hour later, I stood in my inheritance, a corner penthouse in downtown Denver, with floor-to-ceiling windows, showcasing the entire front range of the Rockies. The space was elegant, currently furnished with rental staging, but I could see its bones: original hardwood, exposed brick, a kitchen designed for someone who loved to cook. 2 years, James said quietly, taking in the view. They kept this from you for 2 years. While I lived in a cramped apartment saving every penny, I ran my hand along the marble countertop, lying about being family while stealing my future. My phone had been buzzing non-stop. Finally, I checked the messages. Mother, where are you? This is unacceptable. Come home immediately. Father, stop this childish behavior. We need to discuss your situation like adults. Marcus, Lucy, please. They're losing it. Just come back and we can work this out. Various cousins. Confusion concerned questions about my absence from family brunch. Time to drop that bomb, I murmured. With Patricia's help, I crafted a message to the extended family group chat, the one my parents couldn't control. Dear family, I need to share something difficult. Yesterday, at Sarah's beautiful party, I received a text from my parents stating they'd changed the locks and I no longer had a home. This was their response to my refusal to quit my job and submit to their life plans. I've since learned they've been stealing my inheritance from grandmother Eleanor for 2 years, including rental income from properties she left me. They attempted to drain my bank accounts and were planning to file for guardianship to control my life completely. I've taken legal action to protect myself and recover what was stolen. I share this not to create drama, but because I believe families should be built on truth, not lies. I love you all and hope we can maintain our relationships despite this situation. However, I will no longer participate in gatherings where my parents are present until this is resolved. With love and hope for understanding, Lucille. I attached 2 pieces of evidence: the security photo of father at grandmother's bedside with the lawyer and a screenshot of the forged will versus the real one. Then I hit send. The response was immediate and explosive. My phone crashed from the volume of incoming messages. Through it all, James held my hand, anchoring me to something real and solid. No going back now, I said. Good, he replied. Some bridges should burn. Within an hour of sending the family message, the war escalated dramatically. Patricia had warned me to expect retaliation, but the swiftness took my breath away. My father's first move was predictable. He called Patricia's office, threatening legal action for defamation. Patricia put him on speaker, so James and I could hear his rage. This is a family matter, father's voice boomed through the conference room. You have no right interfering. Mr. Martinez, Patricia interrupted calmly, I represent your daughter's legal interests, which include protecting her from fraud and theft. If you'd like to discuss the evidence we've compiled, I suggest you retain counsel. Evidence. What evidence? That ungrateful girl is having a mental breakdown. The security footage of you entering Eleanor Martinez's room at Sunrise Senior Care on March 15th, 2 years ago, The forged will filed 2 days later, the bank records showing systematic theft of rental income. Patricia's tone remained professionally pleasant. Shall I continue? Silence. Then you'll be hearing from our lawyers. I look forward to it. Oh, and Mr. Martinez's violation of the restraining order includes attempted contact through third parties. Please inform your wife. The line went dead. That was... I searched for words. Satisfying, Patricia suggested with a small smile. It does get easier. Now let's review what Emma sent over this morning. The conference room screen lit up with documents Emma had photographed, my parents' conspiracy laid out in damning detail. Email from mother to Dr. Morrison. Lucille's resistance to family guidance suggests deeper psychological issues. We need documentation supporting intervention before she does something we can't undo. Dr. Morrison's reply, I can provide assessment indicating adjustment disorder with mixed features. Standard treatment would include temporary supervision of major decisions. Father to family lawyer, timeline critical, must file before she discovers Eleanor's actual estate. Patricia Chen cannot be allowed to interfere. Lawyer's response, guardianship papers ready, need doctor's statement and family support. Judge Bradley will be sympathetic to parents protecting unstable child. Judge Bradley, Patricia noted, golf partner of your father's. We've already ensured any filing goes through a different court. The emails continued, each more damaging than the last. Discussions of my symptoms independence labeled as impulsivity, career success dismissed as mania, relationship with James pathologized as rebellion. This is insane, James said, medical training evident in his disgust. Any legitimate psychiatrist would see through this immediately, which is why they carefully chose doctors who value payment over ethics, Patricia replied. Dr. Morrison has a history of questionable diagnoses favoring wealthy families. We're filing complaints with the medical board. My phone buzzed with a call from an unknown number. Patricia nodded for me to answer and record. Lucille. The voice was familiar Aunt Gloria Father's sister. Dear, I just saw your message. This is all some terrible misunderstanding. Is it? I kept my voice neutral. Your parents are beside themselves. They only want what's best for you. Perhaps, if you came to lunch, we could sort this out like family. Aunt Gloria, did you know about grandmother's real will? A pause. I don't know what you mean. The one leaving me properties and money that my parents have been stealing. Lucille. Her shock sounded genuine. How can you say such things? Your father would never. I have security footage of him at her bedside with a lawyer while she was drugged. Would you like to see it? Silence stretched, then quietly. My God, it's true, isn't it, what Robert said all those years ago? What did Robert say? That they'd destroy anyone who didn't conform. That family was just another word for control, her voice cracked. I told him he was being dramatic. I chose my brother over truth. It's not too late to choose differently, I said gently. I need to think. Lucille, be careful. Your mother is calling everyone spinning stories. She's convincing you know how she is. I know exactly how she is. After Gloria hung up, Patricia pulled up her tablet. Speaking of your mother's campaign, social media is lighting up. Screenshots showed my mother's Facebook posts asking for prayers for our daughter during this difficult time. Mental health struggles can strike anyone. We're committed to getting her help despite her resistance. The comments ranged from sympathy to skepticism, but what caught my eye was a response from someone unexpected. Sofia Martinez Ruiz. Interesting how every Martinez child who refuses to obey ends up having mental health struggles. First Robert, then me, now Lucille. Pattern much. Her comment was already gaining likes and supportive replies. Other family members were beginning to question the narrative. Your cousin Sophia just opened a floodgate, Patricia observed. Others are finding courage to speak. More comments appeared. Diego Martinez. I wondered why Robert really left. Maybe it's time we asked harder questions. Rebecca Martinez. Lucille seemed perfectly fine at the party yesterday. Successful, happy. This doesn't add up. Then, a bombshell from Aunt Martha. For those interested in truth, ask Maria and Robert Sr. why they had power of attorney over Eleanor changed 2 months before she died. Ask why Eleanor's regular lawyer was suddenly replaced. Ask why family visits were restricted in her final weeks. Aunt Martha knew. I stared at the screen. Apparently, several people suspected but stayed quiet. Your public statement gave them permission to speak. Patricia refreshed the page. Oh, this is interesting. A new post from Marcus. My sister is not mentally ill. She's the strongest person I know. I've been a coward, but I won't be silent anymore. Mom, Dad, what you're doing is wrong. Emma had tagged him in a photo, the two of them standing outside the family home suitcases beside them. They left, I breathed. They actually left. My phone rang immediately. Marcus. Lucy. His voice was thick with emotion. I'm sorry. I'm so fucking sorry. I knew it was wrong. But they had my future in their hands, and I was scared, and... Marcus, breathe. My own eyes burned with tears. Where are you? Emma's apartment. She showed me everything. The emails, the recordings, the real will. Lucy, how could they do this? How could I let them... You were manipulated and threatened. That's not your fault. But I knew about the locks. I stood there while they planned it. I took your room. His self-loathing was painful to hear. I chose their approval over my sister. And now you're choosing differently. That matters. Emma's voice came on. Lucille, we grabbed what we could, including some interesting documents from your father's study. Can we meet somewhere? Patricia nodded enthusiastically. Bring them here. Any additional evidence strengthens our case. As Marcus and Emma made their way downtown, I watched the family social media explosion continue. Sides were forming, those defending my parents grew quieter as more evidence emerged. Screenshots of the forged will spread like wildfire. Someone leaked the rental income records. Then the killing blow Uncle Robert posted for the first time in 15 years. My niece Lucille is living my nightmare from decades ago. Same playbook, isolation, financial control, false medical claims. I stayed silent to protect her and Marcus from retaliation. That ends now. I have documentation of what Maria and Robert Sr. tried to do to me. Lucille, you're not alone. The truth is our weapon. Attached were his own documents, attempted guardianship papers, forged medical assessments, threats to destroy his architectural career unless he complied with an arranged marriage. Your parents just became radioactive, Patricia said with satisfaction. No legitimate doctor or lawyer will touch this case now. My phone rang, father again, despite the restraining order. Let it go to voicemail, Patricia advised. More evidence of violation. The message he left was unhinged. You ungrateful little bitch. Do you have any idea what you've done? Our reputation, our business, you're destroying everything. Come home now or you'll regret this for the rest of your life. You think you've won. I'll bury you. You'll have nothing. Nothing. Well, James said mildly, he seems upset. Despite everything, I laughed. The absurdity of it all, my father raging about reputation while openly threatening me on a recorded line, struck me as cosmically funny. Let him rage, I said, surprising myself with my calm. I've got truth on my side, and apparently I've got family too, just not the one he wanted me to have. Marcus and Emma arrived at Patricia's office looking haggard but determined. My brother had aged years and hours, the weight of his complicity etched in every line of his face. Emma, by contrast, radiated fierce purpose. Before we start, Marcus said, not meeting my eyes, I need to say something. Lucy, I betrayed you in the worst possible way. I don't expect forgiveness. I want to help make this right. I studied my little brother, the boy I'd taught to ride a bike, helped with homework, protected from bullies. Somewhere along the way, our parents had turned us into competitors instead of allies. Show me what you brought, I said simply. Forgiveness would come later. Right now, we needed ammunition. Emma spread papers across Patricia's conference table. Your father isn't as careful as he thinks. We found these in his home office. Patricia leaned forward, eyes sharpening. Are those what I think they are? Correspondence with a judge about ensuring the right outcome for a guardianship hearing. Emma pointed to key passages. And this, a draft transfer of Lucille's inheritance properties to a shell company owned by Robert Sr. They weren't just going to control me, I realized. They were planning to steal everything permanently. It gets worse, Marcus said quietly. He pulled out a flash drive. Dad's been recording meetings in his study for years. Insurance, he called it, but he forgot I knew the password. Patricia immediately handed the drive to her assistant. Make copies. Original goes in the safe. As files loaded on the screen, my father's voice filled the room from a recording dated 3 weeks ago. Once we have guardianship, we'll liquidate everything. The properties, the portfolios, all of it. Transfer the funds offshore. Lucille will get a monthly allowance enough to keep her grateful and dependent. Mother's voice responded, What about the Chen woman? She'll fight this. Patricia Chen can't fight what she doesn't know about. By the time she realizes what's happened, we'll have Lucille sedated in a private facility. Dr. Morrison assures me 90 days of treatment will make her much more cooperative. Bile rose in my throat. They weren't just planning to steal my money, they were planning to break my mind. There's more, Emma said grimly. She pulled up emails on her phone. Your mother's been in contact with a facility in Switzerland. Discreet rehabilitation for difficult family members. James's hand found mine, his grip tightening with medical understanding of what such places could do. This is conspiracy to commit kidnapping, Patricia stated flatly. Federal crimes. We're beyond civil court now. She picked up her phone. I'm calling the FBI. White-collar division will want everything we have. As Patricia made calls, my phone buzzed with incoming messages. The family group chat had exploded into all-out warfare. Aunt Gloria, I've seen the evidence. Maria, Robert, how could you? Your own daughter. Uncle Carlos, this is family business. Airing, it publicly brings shame on all of us. Cousin Patricia, the only shame is staying silent while abuse happens. Team Lucille. Sophia! For those asking why I really left similar plan different target, they tried to have me committed when I refused their choice of husband. Only difference is I ran before they could execute it. Then Aunt Martha dropped another bomb. Since we're sharing truths, Eleanor knew. She spent her last months documenting everything, preparing protection for Lucille. She told me they'll come for her when I'm gone. I should have acted sooner. My parents' supporters grew fewer with each revelation. Their carefully constructed image crumbled in real time. Lucille. Patricia's assistant interrupted. You need to see this. The office television showed a local news alert. Prominent Denver real estate developer Robert Martinez Sr. under investigation for elder abuse and fraud. Sources indicate FBI involvement. The story was breaking wide. Someone, likely a family member fed up with the silence, had leaked to the media. My phone rang, Sarah's number. Well, Lucy, I'm at your parents' house with my mom. They're destroying things. Papers, computers, everything. Should we call the police? Patricia grabbed the phone. This is Patricia Chen, Lucille's attorney. Do not touch anything. Leave immediately and call 911. Tell them you witnessed destruction of evidence in an ongoing FBI investigation. Through the chaos, a text from Uncle Robert. Watching the news. Proud of you, kiddo. Eleanor would be too. When this settles, let's rebuild what they destroyed. Another from Sophia. You're braver than I was. I'm flying in from Portland tomorrow. You shouldn't face this alone. The office door burst open. Patricia's assistant looked alarmed. Security says there's a disturbance in the lobby. A couple demanding to see Lucille Martinez. Should I? Call the police, Sir Patricia ordered. They're violating a restraining order. On the security monitor, we watched my parents arguing with building security. Mother's careful composure had shattered completely. Her designer suit was disheveled, her face contorted with rage. Father looked worse, tie askew, face flushed, gesturing wildly. "Let me talk to my daughter," Mother shrieked. "She's sick. She needs help." "Ma'am, you need to leave," the security guard said firmly. "The police are on their way." Father spotted the camera and pointed directly at it. "Lucille, I know you're watching. You've destroyed us. Your grandmother would be ashamed." "Actually, I said quietly, though he couldn't hear me, "grandmother planned for this exact moment." We watched as police arrived, my parents still ranting as they were escorted out. The mighty Martinez facade hadn't just cracked, it had shattered completely. "Oh, well," Patricia said with satisfaction. "I'd say that went well. FBI will want to interview you tomorrow. Are you prepared for that?" I thought about everything I'd lost: my childhood home, my parents' love if it had ever been real, the illusion of family harmony. Then I thought about what I'd gained: truth, freedom, and people who actually cared about my well-being. "I'm ready," I said. "Let's finish this." Marcus spoke up, voice stronger than before. "I want to testify, too, about the threats, the manipulation, all of it." "Same," Emma added. "I've got recordings going back months." Patricia smiled, a shark scenting blood in the water. "Then let's make sure your parents get exactly what they deserve." As we prepared for the legal battle ahead, my phone lit up with messages of support from family members I'd barely spoken to in years. The Martinez clan was choosing sides, and surprisingly many were choosing mine. But the best message came from James, sitting right beside me. "I love you. We've got this. Together." My parents had tried to isolate me, break me, steal my future. Instead, they'd freed me from their toxic influence and revealed who my real family was. Tomorrow, the FBI would come calling. The empire my parents had built on lies and manipulation would face justice. And I would watch it fall with the sunrise from my penthouse window, exactly as grandmother Eleanor had envisioned. The crumbling facade was almost beautiful in its destruction. From the ashes, something better would rise. Monday morning arrived with FBI agents at Patricia's office door. Special agents Sarah Coleman and David Park looked like they'd stepped from central casting, professional, sharp-eyed, and utterly humorless about financial crimes. Ms. Martinez, Agent Coleman began after introductions. "What your attorney has shared suggests a pattern of criminal behavior spanning years. We need everything you can provide." For 3 hours, I walked them through my story, every detail, every discovered document, every recorded threat. Marcus followed his testimony, revealing the psychological manipulation he'd endured. Emma presented her recordings with clinical precision. Agent Park took notes on a tablet, occasionally exchanging glances with his partner. "The international element concerns us most," he said finally. "This Swiss facility, we've seen it before. Wealthy families using medical kidnapping to control relatives." "Medical kidnapping?" Marcus paled. "Involuntary commitment based on fraudulent diagnoses. The victims are sedated, isolated, and treated until they comply with family demands." Coleman's expression was grim. "Your parents weren't the first to try this scheme." "Will they be arrested?" I asked. "We're building the case. The destroyed evidence complicates things, but..." Park smiled slightly. "Your father's habit of recording meetings, that flash drive, is gold. He documented his own conspiracy." As the agents prepared to leave, Coleman turned back. "Ms. Martinez, you should know the rental income your parents stole. The IRS will want their cut of the taxes your parents didn't pay on it. They're looking at significant federal charges." After they left, Patricia pulled up news feeds. The story had gone national. Denver real estate dynasty crumbles amid FBI investigation. But the real shock came from an unexpected source. Mother's sister, my Aunt Teresa from California, did a live interview with a local station. I've stayed silent for 20 years, Teresa said, tears streaming. My sister destroyed my first marriage because my husband wasn't wealthy enough. She spread lies, manipulated situations, turned family against us. I rebuilt my life far from them. But I watched her do the same to Robert, to Sophia, now to Lucille. It ends here. The interviewer leaned forward. You're saying this is a pattern? Maria Martinez is a master manipulator who uses family loyalty as a weapon. She married my brother-in-law for his money and spent 40 years turning him into her enforcer. Their children were just possessions to control. My phone rang. Unknown number, but Patricia nodded for me to answer on speaker. Lucille Martinez. A nervous male voice. This is Dr. Morrison. I need to speak with your attorney. I want to cooperate with authorities. Your parents threatened my medical license if I didn't comply. I have emails proving it. Patricia grabbed the phone, professional mask sliding on. Dr. Morrison, this is Patricia Chen. We're recording this call. Please continue. They've been pressuring me for years. Small things at first: inflated insurance claims, prescription requests, then bigger demands. The guardianship papers they wanted. I knew they were fraudulent, but they had evidence of the insurance fraud. I was trapped. We can discuss immunity with prosecutors, Patricia said smoothly. Bring everything. Emails, texts, recorded conversations. Full cooperation might save your license. After he hung up, we sat in stunned silence. The first rat was fleeing the sinking ship. Within hours, more came forward. The family lawyer called, desperate to distance himself from the conspiracy. Business partners scrambled to cut ties. Even their country club released a statement about reviewing membership standards. Then came the call that changed everything. Patricia. The voice was elderly but strong. This is Eleanor Martinez. My blood froze. Patricia's face went white. I apologize for the deception, the voice continued. Eleanor was my dear friend. This is Margaret Chen, Patricia's mother. Eleanor asked me to make this call if certain events came to pass. Patricia gasped. Mother, you knew Eleanor. We built businesses together in the 70s, dear. Eleanor helped me start my import company when banks wouldn't loan to Chinese women. We remained close until her death. Margaret's voice carried decades of secrets. She knew her son would eventually show his true nature. So we prepared. Prepared how? That I managed. There's a safety deposit box at First National. Eleanor gave me power to access it when her grandchildren needed protection. Patricia, bring Lucille tomorrow. It's time she saw everything. The call ended, leaving us reeling. Even from beyond the grave, grandmother Eleanor had moves we hadn't anticipated. Your grandmother and my mother were friends. Patricia looked stunned. She never told me. Apparently, Eleanor kept many secrets on, I said. Good ones for once. That evening, I stood in my penthouse watching sunset paint the mountains gold. James cooked dinner while I fielded calls from family. The sides had solidified. My parents found themselves increasingly isolated as truth spread like wildfire. Then Marcus arrived with news that shocked everyone. Our dad's been arrested, he said, breathless from running. White-collar division picked him up an hour ago. Mom barricaded herself in the house, but there's a warrant for her too. How do you know? Emma asked. Uncle Carlos called. He's Dad's emergency contact. Marcus collapsed on my couch. Carlos sounded relieved, said it was overdue. I turned on the news to find our family's destruction playing out in real time. Footage showed my father in handcuffs being led from his office building. His expression stunned disbelief that consequences had finally found him was almost pitifully satisfying. Well, there's something else, Marcus said quietly. Before the FBI came, Dad called me, tried to get me to transfer money from company accounts, wanted me to be his accomplice in running. What did you do? Emma asked. I recorded the call and sent it to Agent Coleman. He met my eyes. I'm done enabling them, Lucy, whatever it costs me. Your medical school application, I'll reapply somewhere they don't have influence. Start clean. He managed a weak smile, maybe following my own path instead of theirs. My phone buzzed. Sarah texting frantically. Your mom showed up at my parents' house demanding money. She's acting crazy. What should we do? Call the police, I texted back. She's violating restraining orders and has a warrant. Patricia, who'd been taking calls, hung up with a satisfied expression. The forensic accountants finished their preliminary review. Your parents stole approximately $4.7 million over 2 years. With interest and penalties, they're looking at full restitution plus substantial punitive damages. Can they pay it? Their assets are being frozen as we speak. The house, the business, accounts, everything. You'll recover most of it, though it may take time. A knock at the door interrupted. Emma checked the security camera and gasped. It's your mother. She's alone. Through the camera, we could see her, the formidable Maria Martinez, reduced to a disheveled woman clutching designer luggage. Her perfect makeup was smeared, her clothes wrinkled. She looked like what she was, a criminal on the run. Don't open it, James said firmly. Let security handle it. We watched as building security approached her. She tried to push past them, screaming my name. Lucille, I'm your mother. You can't do this to family. Homelessness, I said to the screen, though she couldn't hear. You taught me exactly what that word means to you. Police arrived within minutes. The last image of my mother was her being handcuffed while ranting about ungrateful children and stolen birthrights. Even facing arrest, she couldn't admit wrongdoing. It's over, Emma said softly. No, I corrected, thinking of tomorrow's safety deposit box, of Uncle Robert flying in, of Sophia returning, of the family rebuilding without its poisonous core. It's just beginning. That night, as James held me in the bed my grandmother's foresight had purchased, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years: safety. Not the false security of family approval or financial comfort, but the real safety of truth acknowledged and justice served. My parents had built an empire on lies and control. In trying to cage me, they'd freed me instead. And tomorrow, I'd discover just how thoroughly Grandmother Eleanor had prepared for this victory. The tables hadn't just turned, they'd been flipped entirely, and I was finally seated at the winning side. Tuesday morning dawned crisp and clear, the September air carrying hints of approaching autumn. Patricia picked me up early for our appointment at First National Bank, both of us silent with anticipation about what Eleanor's safety deposit box might contain. The bank manager, clearly aware of the media attention surrounding our family, handled us with extra discretion. Margaret Chen waited in a private room, her presence commanding despite her diminutive stature. Lucille, she said warmly, taking my hands, you have your grandmother's eyes and her spine from what I've seen. Mrs. Chen, I had no idea you knew her. We kept our friendship private. 2 women building businesses in the 70s learned discretion. She produced an old key. Eleanor updated this box regularly until 6 months before her death. She said you'd need it when the facades finally fell. The box was larger than standard, requiring 2 keys. Inside, we found an archive of warfare, decades of documentation my grandmother had assembled. My God, Patricia breathed, pulling out folder after folder. Financial records proving my parents had embezzled from grandfather's company before his death. Photos of my father with known criminals during business deals. Medical records showing mother's prescription drug abuse hidden for years. And devastating for their reputations recordings. Eleanor wore a wire. I stared at the old-fashioned tapes. She recorded everything after Robert's exile, Margaret explained. Said she needed proof for when they came for you. We played one tape dated 3 years before her death. My parents' voices filled the room. Father, once mother's gone, we'll have full control. Lucille will fall in line or face consequences. Mother, she's always been too independent, like Robert. Father, Robert was a warning. Lucille will be smarter. Mother, and if she's not? Father, then we'll handle her like we should have handled Robert, completely and permanently. The casual discussion of my potential destruction 3 years before I'd even defied them chilled me to the bone. There's more, Margaret said gently, pulling out a sealed envelope marked for Lucille open only with Patricia Chen present. Inside, another letter from grandmother. My dearest girl, if you're reading this, then you've won the first battle. But wars aren't won in single victories. Your parents will try to regroup to salvage their empire. Don't let them. In this box, you'll find evidence of crimes spanning decades. Use it all. Show no mercy, for they would show you none. But also remember, revenge without rebuilding is hollow victory. Take the fortune they tried to steal and build something better. Help the family members they hurt. Create the legacy our name should have carried. The Chen family will support you. Margaret's daughter Patricia is the finest attorney I know, trained specifically for this moment. Yes, I planned even that, my dear. Forgive an old woman her schemes. Live freely, love deeply, and never apologize for being exactly who you are. Your devoted grandmother, Eleanor. Check the bottom of the box. One last surprise. Patricia reached in and pulled out a small velvet bag. Inside were keys and a note. Beach house in Malibu. Bought in your name through a trust taxes paid through 2090. Your parents never knew. Consider it a sanctuary when Denver feels too heavy. I sank into a chair, overwhelmed. My grandmother had thought of everything: legal protection, financial security, even emotional refuge. She really loved you, Margaret said softly. Spoke of you constantly those last years. Said you were the only one who inherited her business sense without the cruelty. My phone buzzed urgently. Marcus. Lucy, turn on the news, now. The bank manager permitted us to use his office television. Every local channel showed the same breaking story: Maria Martinez arrested in dramatic standoff. The footage was surreal. My mother barricaded in my childhood home, police surrounding the property. She'd apparently held out for hours before SWAT used tear gas. The mighty Maria Martinez was dragged out in handcuffs, makeup, screaming about conspiracies and ungrateful children. Both parents in custody, Patricia noted with satisfaction. Bail hearing tomorrow, though I doubt they'll get it. Flight risk. More calls flooded in. The family group chat exploded with shock support and inevitable drama, but one message stood out. Uncle Robert, landed at DIA. Where are you? Time we had a proper reunion. An hour later, I met my uncle for the first time in 15 years. The baby-faced brother I remembered had become a distinguished man with silver temples and kind eyes. His embrace felt like coming home. You did it, he said, voice thick with emotion. What I couldn't. You stood and fought. I had advantages you didn't, I admitted. Grandmother's preparations, Patricia, Emma's recordings. You had courage, he corrected. That matters most. We talked for hours in Patricia's office, comparing experiences, sharing scars. Robert showed me his own battles, the lawsuits, the restraining orders, the slow rebuild of his life far from family. My biggest regret was leaving you and Marcus behind, he admitted. But they made it clear contact with me meant consequences for you both. We know that now. Marcus is finally free too. Good. That boy deserves better than being their puppet. Robert pulled out his phone. I've kept tabs on every family member they hurt. Sophia, cousin Miguel, who was disowned for marrying a black woman, Aunt Teresa. We've formed our own family in exile. You're welcome to join us. That evening, my penthouse filled with unexpected guests. Sophia arrived from Portland, Miguel from Houston. Even Aunt Teresa flew in from California. The exiled Martinezes gathered, sharing stories and wine, rebuilding bonds my parents had severed. To Eleanor, Robert raised a glass. Who saw this day coming and prepared for it? To Eleanor, we echoed. Marcus and Emma arrived with pizza and news from the legal front. Bail denied for both, Emma reported. Judge called them flight risks with means and motive to flee. Also, more people are coming forward. 3 former employees claiming workplace harassment and wage theft. The empire is collapsing, Patricia confirmed. Federal investigation expanded to include tax evasion, money laundering, and Risho charges. Your parents built a criminal enterprise disguised as a family business. What happens to the legitimate parts? Marcus asked. The real estate holdings, the actual business. Bankruptcy court will sort it out. Creditors, including Lucille for the stolen millions, get first priority. Criminal fines and restitution come next. Your parents will likely have nothing left. Good, Sophia said flatly. They destroyed lives for money. Let them see how it feels to have neither. As the night wore on, I watched my real family, the ones who'd survived my parents' tyranny, laugh and plan and heal together. This was what family should be chosen. Connection, not forced submission. James, who'd been quietly supportive throughout, pulled me aside. How are you doing? Really? I considered. Free. Sad for the parents I wished I'd had, but free from the ones I did have. Does that make sense? Perfect sense. He kissed my forehead. I'm proud of you. My phone rang. Unknown number, but something made me answer. Lucille Martinez. A young female voice, nervous. My name is Christina Morrison. Dr. Morrison's daughter. I saw the news and... Can we meet? There are things about your family you should know. Things my father won't tell authorities. I looked around the room at my chosen family, my support system, my future. Then I agreed to meet Christina tomorrow. The reckoning wasn't over. More truths waited in the shadows. But for tonight, I was surrounded by people who loved me without conditions in a home my grandmother's wisdom had secured free from the toxic legacy my parents had tried to force on me. The reckoning had come, and justice was proving sweeter than any revenge. Christina Morrison looked nothing like her father, where he was polished and fake. She radiated genuine distress. We met at a quiet coffee shop downtown, Patricia accompanying me for legal protection. Thank you for seeing me, Christina began, hands wrapped around her coffee cup. I've wanted to speak out for years, but my father... He's not a good man, Ms. Martinez. Your parents aren't his only victims. What do you mean? Patricia leaned forward. Christina pulled out a tablet. I work in medical records, started investigating after suspicious patterns in Dad's diagnoses. Look at this. The screen showed dozens of cases over 20 years. Wealthy families seeking control over relatives, convenient diagnoses of mental instability, involuntary commitments. Always the same players. Dr. Morrison-specific judges select lawyers. It's a network, Christina explained. Your parents were just one tentacle. When family members become inconvenient, wrong marriage, wrong career, wrong sexuality, this group makes them disappear legally. How many? My voice sounded hollow. At least 40 that I've documented. Some got out like your uncle. Others? She swiped to a new screen. 3 suicides in treatment. 5 still institutionalized. Dozens more too frightened to speak. Patricia was already taking notes. This is massive. FBI needs all of this immediately. There's more. Christina's eyes met mine. Your grandmother knew. She was gathering evidence when she got sick. My father was medicating her secretly, trying to make her seem incompetent. But she was smart. She hid her clarity, played along while documenting everything. The recordings in the safety deposit box, I breathed. She knew she was being drugged. She knew everything, even used it against them, acted more confused when they needed her to sign things, then had moments of perfect clarity with her real lawyer. Christina smiled sadly. She told me once, they think they're playing chess, but I've already won the game. We spent hours reviewing Christina's evidence. The scope was staggering, a conspiracy of Denver's elite to control their families through medical fraud. My parents weren't masterminds. They were participants in something larger and darker. Will you testify? Patricia asked. Already scheduled with the FBI tomorrow. Christina's jaw set. I'm done protecting my father, done being complicit through silence. That afternoon, Patricia's office resembled a war room. FBI agents, state prosecutors, and federal attorneys coordinated what Agent Coleman called the biggest family fraud case in Colorado history. Your grandmother was building a RICO case, Coleman explained. She knew individual families couldn't fight the network, so she gathered evidence to bring them all down together. She planned this for years. I struggled to comprehend the scope. Eleanor Martinez was a brilliant woman who understood patience. Every piece of evidence in that safety deposit box connects to larger patterns. She couldn't save Robert or Sophia in time, but she made sure you'd have the weapons to save everyone else. Marcus arrived with Emma, and news that shouldn't have surprised me but did. Dad tried to hire a hitman, he said bluntly, from his jail cell to kill you. The room went silent. Fortunately, Marcus continued, he tried to hire an undercover federal agent. They have him on tape negotiating your murder for $50,000. I sank into a chair. Even knowing their cruelty, the idea that my father wanted me dead was a special kind of pain. Oh, you attempted murder for hire, Patricia said quietly. Life in prison, no parole. Mom knew, Marcus added. She's on the call, too, suggesting ways to make it look accidental. So, there it was. The final mask had fallen. My parents weren't just controlling or abusive, they were willing to murder their own child to protect their empire. I'm sorry, Agent Coleman said gently. I know this is difficult. No, I said, surprising myself with my steadiness. It's clarifying. They're not my parents. They're criminals who happened to raise me. There's a difference. That evening, Robert hosted a family dinner at his hotel suite. The exiled Martinezes plus new allies like Christina and James gathered around a massive table. Even Aunt Martha had come, finally choosing truth over comfortable blindness. I need to apologize, Martha said, standing with difficulty. I knew, not everything, but enough. I chose silence and propriety over protecting you children. That was wrong. We all made choices, Sophia said gently. What matters is what we choose now. Then I choose this, Martha declared. I'm testifying about everything I witnessed over 50 years. Every cruel act, every financial manipulation, every life destroyed for the sake of their image. One by one, family members committed. Miguel would testify about being disowned for his marriage. Teresa about the destruction of her first family. Even cousin Patricia, who'd seemed neutral, revealed her own story of threats when she'd tried to date a woman in college. They controlled through fear, Robert summarized, made us think silence was survival, but silence was complicity. No more, I said. We tell everything. We help prosecutors destroy their network, and then we rebuild this family properly. Speaking of rebuilding, James interjected, Lucille has something to share. I discussed it with him earlier, the idea that had been growing since discovering grandmother's beach house gift. I want to create a foundation, I announced, using the recovered money and damages, a resource for people trapped in family financial abuse, legal help, safe housing counseling, whatever they need to escape. The Eleanor Martinez Foundation for Family Freedom, Robert suggested. Perfect, I smiled at my uncle. Will you help run it? I'd be honored. I'll provide free legal services, Patricia added. Medical evaluations to counter false diagnoses, Christina offered. I can help with financial counseling, Emma volunteered. Show people how to rebuild after economic abuse. Around the table, offers poured in. The family my parents had tried to destroy was transforming into something powerful, a network of support for others facing similar abuse. Grandmother would love this, Marcus said quietly, taking their weapons and turning them into shields for others. My phone buzzed. Sarah, texting from her own family gathering, saw the news about the murder plot. I'm horrified. Also, I still want you as my maid of honor if you're willing. Real family isn't blood, it's choice. I choose you. I showed the text around the table, tears threatening. See, we're rebuilding bridges everywhere. To new foundations, Robert raised his glass, built on truth instead of lies. To grandmother Eleanor, I added, who saw this day coming and made it possible. To family, Sophia concluded, the real kind, the chosen kind. We drank, we planned, we healed. Outside, Denver glittered beneath a canopy of stars. Somewhere across the city, my parents sat in separate cells, their empire in ruins, their future in cages of their own making. But here in this room full of survivors and warriors, the Martinez name was being redeemed. We were taking back our legacy, transforming poison into medicine. The bridges my parents had burned were becoming foundations for something better. And I was exactly where I belonged, surrounded by people who loved me not for my compliance, but for my courage. Tomorrow would bring more testimony, more revelations, more justice. But tonight was for rebuilding, reconnecting, and remembering that family bonds forged in truth are unbreakable. 2 days later, the Denver Federal Courthouse became ground zero for the unraveling of Colorado's most shocking family conspiracy. Media crews lined the steps as witnesses arrived to testify before the grand jury. I walked through the crowd, flanked by Patricia and James wearing grandmother Eleanor's pearl necklace, the only family heirloom I still wanted. Inside the halls buzzed with nervous energy. The network my parents had participated in was vast, 17 families, implicated 6 doctors, 4 judges, countless lawyers, and financial advisors, all built on the premise that wealth entitled them to absolute control over their relatives' lives. Lucille Martinez. A bailiff approached. You're up first. The grand jury room felt smaller than expected. 23 citizens sat ready to hear evidence that would shake Denver's social foundations. I took my seat, placed my hand on the Bible, and prepared to bury the empire my parents had built on others' pain. For 3 hours I testified. Every detail, every discovered document, every recording. The jury's faces shifted from skepticism to horror as the scope became clear. When I played the recording of my parents discussing my potential murder, calmly like planning a dinner party, several jurors gasped. They spoke about killing me. I said steadily, the same way they discuss removing an inconvenient piece of furniture. That's what I was to them, property that had malfunctioned. Marcus followed me, his testimony focusing on the psychological manipulation. They didn't just threaten my medical school dreams, he explained. They made me believe I was nothing without their approval, that choosing my own path meant betraying everything good in our family. It took watching them try to destroy my sister to realize the betrayal was theirs. Christina Morrison's testimony caused a sensation. Armed with her medical records research, she laid out 2 decades of fraudulent diagnoses. My father prostituted his medical license to cage inconvenient family members. Every forced commitment, every false diagnosis, every life destroyed, he did it for money. By lunch, word leaked that multiple defendants were trying to make deals. The conspiracy was fracturing as co-conspirators raced to save themselves. That evening, Patricia called with news. Your parents' lawyer just contacted me. They want to negotiate a settlement. Now they want to negotiate. I laughed bitterly. After trying to have me killed. They're facing life in prison. The murder-for-hire charge alone ensures that. But they have hidden assets we might never find without cooperation. They're offering full disclosure in exchange for your victim impact statement asking for leniency. Absolutely not. Hear me out, Patricia continued. Not leniency on criminal charges, those stand, but on financial penalties. They reveal everything, every hidden account and property, and you agree not to pursue additional civil damages beyond recovery of what was stolen. I considered it. How much are we talking about? Based on their lawyers' hints, another 10 to 12 million hidden offshore. Money that could help a lot of victims through your foundation. The pragmatic part of me. Grandmother Eleanor's part recognized the opportunity. I want it in writing. Every asset, every crime, every victim they know about. Full cooperation with authorities, and they allocate half their revealed assets directly to other victims. I'll draft the terms, Lucille. This is the right choice. Justice isn't just about punishment, it's about restitution. That night, I sat in my penthouse with the core group of exiled family. We'd ordered Chinese takeout and spread documents across the living room floor, mapping the network's connections like detectives on a TV show. Look at this. Sophia pointed to a pattern. Every victim had just inherited money or was about to. The network identified targets through probate filings and trust announcements. Vultures, Robert muttered, circling grieving families. Emma, who'd thrown herself into foundation planning, looked up from her laptop. We've had 43 inquiries since the news broke, people asking for help escaping similar situations. This is just Denver. Imagine how widespread this is nationally. Then we go national, I decided. Start here, then expand. Create a model other cities can replicate. The Eleanor Martinez Foundation goes nationwide, James said with pride. Your grandmother's revenge on a continental scale. My phone rang. Agent Coleman. Miss Martinez, I wanted you to hear this first. Based on today's testimony, we've arrested 14 more individuals. The judges are in custody. Dr. Morrison flipped and is providing evidence on the entire medical side. Your parents' network is finished. What about my parents specifically? Charged with conspiracy fraud, attempted murder for hire, money laundering, and tax evasion. Their lawyer says they'll take your deal for financial disclosure. They know they're finished. After hanging up, I sat quietly. Victory should feel better than this hollow ache. These were my parents despite everything, the people who'd raised me however twistedly. Their destruction brought justice, but not joy. You're allowed to mourn, Robert said gently, reading my face. Mourn the parents you should have had, the family we all deserved. Feeling sad doesn't diminish your victory. I keep thinking about Christmas mornings, I admitted. Birthday parties, Mom teaching me to braid my hair. Were those moments real or just performance? Maybe both, Martha suggested. People aren't pure evil or pure good. Your parents loved you in their broken way. They just loved control more. That's what makes it worse, Marcus added. If they were monsters, it would be simple. But they were people who chose monstrosity. We sat with that truth, processing the complex grief of losing family who'd never truly existed as we'd believed. Around midnight, Patricia sent the settlement draft. 22 pages of legalese that boiled down to simple terms. My parents would reveal everything in exchange for my agreement not to pursue further civil action beyond recovering stolen assets. I signed it. Not for them, but for their other victims who deserved restitution, for the foundation that would help others escape, for the good that could come from their hoarded wealth. It's done, I announced. Tomorrow they provide full financial disclosure. We'll have everything needed to help their victims and prevent future ones. To Eleanor's revenge, Robert raised his beer, served ice cold through the legal system. To transformation, I countered, turning their weapons into tools of liberation. As my chosen family headed home, James helped me clean up. In the quiet afterward, he held me while I finally let myself cry for the parents I'd lost, the childhood revealed as lies, the innocence I'd never get back. You're the strongest person I know, he whispered. I had help, I replied, thinking of grandmother's preparations, Patricia's brilliance, Emma's courage, everyone who'd stood with me. No one survives this alone. No, he agreed, but you led the charge. You turned victims into victors. That's your gift. Looking out at Denver's lights, I thought about all the families hiding similar secrets behind closed doors. All the children and spouses and siblings trapped by financial abuse masquerading as love. Tomorrow, my parents would reveal their remaining secrets. Next week, they'd likely plead guilty to avoid trial. Next month, the foundation would officially launch. and somewhere out there, someone trapped like I'd been would hear about us and find hope. The legal victories were just beginning, but already I could feel Grandmother Eleanor smiling from wherever she was. We'd won more than court cases, we'd broken the cycle. And that was the greatest victory of all. 6 months after that family party where everything changed, I stood in a transformed landscape. The federal courthouse had seen the conclusion of one of Denver's most explosive trials. My parents, along with 11 co-conspirators, had accepted plea deals. Father got 25 years for the murder-for-hire plot. Mother received 18 for conspiracy and fraud. Their empire lay in ruins, their assets redistributed to victims, their reputation destroyed beyond repair. But today wasn't about them, it was about resurrection. The Eleanor Martinez Foundation for Family Freedom officially launched in a restored Victorian mansion in Capitol Hill, a property that had been one of my hidden inheritances. Where once these walls might have hidden family secrets, they now sheltered hope. Welcome, everyone. I addressed the packed room of survivors, supporters, and media. 6 months ago, I received a text message designed to destroy me. Instead, it freed not just me, but dozens of others trapped in similar situations. The audience included every family member who'd suffered under my parents' reign. Sophia had moved back to Denver to run our counseling program. Miguel headed our legal aid division. Christina Morrison managed our medical advocacy team, helping victims counter fraudulent diagnoses. Even Aunt Martha, at 73, volunteered as a mentor for elderly financial abuse victims. This foundation exists because my grandmother, Eleanor Martinez, saw the patterns of abuse and prepared weapons against them, but also because brave individuals chose truth over comfortable silence. Every person in this room who spoke up, who testified, who refused to perpetuate abuse, you're the real founders. Marcus stepped up beside me. He'd been accepted to medical school in California, a program where our father had no influence. He'd changed his last name to Chen, taking Emma's surname as they prepared for their wedding next month. My sister saved my life, Marcus told the crowd. Not from physical death, but from spiritual death. From becoming another link in the chain of control and cruelty. This foundation will save others the same way, by showing them that family isn't about blood or control, but about choosing to lift each other up. Patricia Chen followed, outlining our legal services. In 6 months, we'd already helped extract 17 people from abusive family situations, recovered over $3 million in stolen assets for victims, and established partnerships with law firms nationwide for pro bono representation. Financial abuse within families is more common than people realize, Patricia explained. It hides behind cultural expectations of filial piety, family loyalty, and privacy. We're changing that conversation. Abuse is abuse whether it comes from a stranger or someone who claims to love you. The ribbon cutting was ceremonial but meaningful. I used Grandmother Eleanor's silver scissors, one of the few heirlooms untainted by my parents' legacy. As the ribbon fell, applause erupted not just for the building, but for the movement it represented. During the reception, I moved through the crowd, gathering stories, offering support. Each conversation reinforced why this work mattered. A young woman from Colorado Springs. My stepfather has controlled my trust fund since Mom died, said I wasn't mature enough at 25. Your story gave me courage to get a lawyer. An elderly man from Pueblo, my son's been draining my accounts, claiming I'm too confused to manage money, but I'm sharp as ever. Your foundation's helping me prove it. A teenager brought by his school counselor, my parents say they'll disown me if I don't study business instead of art. Seeing you choose your own path, maybe I can too. Each story was unique yet familiar variations on the theme of love weaponized into control. You've built something amazing, James said, finding me during a quiet moment. He'd been my rock through everything, never wavering, despite the chaos my family drama brought into our life. We built it, I corrected, all of us together. No, Uncle Robert interjected, joining us with champagne. You led it. The rest of us just followed your courage. Robert had become my closest advisor, his architecture firm designing our renovation pro bono. His 15 years of exile had ended with him not just returning to Denver, but helping reshape it. Any word from them? He asked quietly, meaning my parents. Their lawyer sends updates. They're in separate facilities, no contact allowed. Both refused to see me when I offered. I tried once to visit, not for reconciliation, but for closure. Their refusal had been my final liberation. Their loss, Robert said firmly. They had a daughter worth treasuring and threw her away for control. Emma appeared with wedding planning materials. Despite everything, she and Marcus were determined to have the family celebration my parents had tried to corrupt. Small problem, she said. The guest list. Do we invite the family members who stayed neutral during everything? It was a question we'd all faced, how to handle those who'd neither helped nor hindered, who'd chosen comfortable blindness over difficult truth. Invite them, I decided, but make it clear this is a new kind of family gathering, one built on honesty and chosen bonds, not obligation and fear. As the reception continued, I slipped away to the foundation's residential wing. We'd created 6 emergency apartments for people fleeing family financial abuse. The first residents had moved in last week, a young couple whose parents had tried to force an arranged marriage for business purposes. They were in the common area, laptops open, building their own lives free from parental manipulation. Thank you, the woman said simply when she saw me, for showing us it's possible to survive without their approval. You're showing yourselves, I replied. I just opened a door. You walked through it. That evening, the core group gathered in my penthouse for our own celebration. The formal launch was public victory. This was personal triumph. 6 months, Sophia marveled. From that party to this, it feels like a lifetime. We've all lived lifetimes since then, Marcus agreed. He looked healthier, the guilt and anxiety replaced by genuine peace. Learned who we really are when not performing for their approval. Speaking of the party, Sarah said, raising her glass, as my maid of honor Lucille gets to plan my bachelorette party. Just maybe somewhere other than my parents' backyard. We laughed, real healing laughter that acknowledged pain while choosing joy. To Sarah and David, I toasted, may your marriage be everything family should be: supportive, honest, and free. To the foundation, Patricia added, may it help thousands escape what we endured. To grandmother Eleanor, Martha contributed, who loved us enough to prepare for war. To second chances, Robert said, and the courage to take them. To chosen family, Marcus concluded, blood couldn't bind us, but choice did. We drank, we planned, we dreamed of the foundation's future. Outside, Denver glittered with promise. Somewhere in federal prisons, my parents faced the consequences of choosing control over love. Their legacy of manipulation was ending. But here in this room, full of survivors and warriors, a new legacy was beginning. One built on truth choice and the radical idea that family should liberate, not imprison. My phone buzzed with an email from a journalist. Ms. Martinez, would you consider writing a book about your experience? We believe your story could help countless others recognize and escape family financial abuse. I showed it to the group. What do you think? Do it, Emma said immediately. Name names, show tactics, give others the roadmap we didn't have. The Eleanor Martinez story, breaking free from family financial abuse, James suggested. With proceeds supporting the foundation, Robert added. I looked around at these people who'd become my true family. 6 months ago, I'd stood at a party surrounded by blood relatives who saw me as property. Now I sat with chosen family who saw me as myself. I'll do it, I decided. But it's not just my story, it's all of ours. Every person who chose truth over comfortable lies. The next chapter of our lives was beginning. The foundation would grow, the book would be written. Sarah would have her wedding with her real family present. Marcus would become a doctor on his own terms. Emma would help others escape financial abuse. Christina would reform medical ethics. Patricia would change laws. Robert would design safe spaces. Sophia would counsel survivors. Martha would mentor those seeking wisdom. And I would continue Grandmother Eleanor's work, turning weapons of control into tools of liberation, helping others discover that the greatest inheritance isn't money or property, but the freedom to be exactly who you are. The party that had begun my ending had become the catalyst for countless beginnings, and this was just the start. 1 year after the family party that changed everything, I stood once again in a garden filled with relatives. But this time, the celebration was genuine. The smiles real, the family chosen rather than imposed. Sarah's wedding day dawned perfect, clear October sky aspens painting the mountains gold. The venue wasn't her parents' backyard, but the Eleanor Martinez Foundation Gardens, transformed with fairy lights and autumn flowers into something magical. "You ready?" I asked Sarah as I helped adjust her veil in the bridal suite. As her maid of honor, I'd watched her navigate the complexities of maintaining relationships with parents who'd enabled abuse while building new bonds with those who'd chosen truth. "More than ready," she glowed. "Thank you for showing me what real family looks like, for being my sister by choice." The wedding party was a testament to rebuilt connections. Marcus stood as groomsman, healthy and confident in medical school. Emma served as bridesmaid, her own wedding ring, catching light they'd married quietly at the courthouse 6 months prior, surrounded only by chosen family. Sophia, Miguel, Christina, and others who'd survived the Martinez family wars stood with us, proof that broken bonds could be rewoven stronger. "Places everyone," the coordinator called. I walked down the aisle past faces that told our story. Robert gave me a proud uncle's smile. Aunt Martha dabbed tears, having traded rigid propriety for joyful authenticity. Patricia Chen sat with her mother Margaret, the secret friendship between our grandmothers now public and celebrated. Even neutral cousins had come, finally choosing sides after watching truth triumph over manipulation. The ceremony was beautiful in its simplicity. Sarah and David wrote vows about choosing each other daily, building partnership on trust, not control. When they kissed, the applause came from hearts that understood the profound act of choosing love freely. At the reception, I stood to give my maid of honor speech. The microphone felt lighter than it had at that long-ago party where I'd hidden my homelessness behind smiles. A year ago, at another family party, I learned that home isn't walls and locks. It's where you're loved for who you are, not who others demand you become. Sarah taught me that sisters aren't just born, they're made through choices. Through late-night calls during family crises, through standing witness to each other's truth, through choosing celebration over obligation. I raised my champagne, real joy behind the gesture this time. "Sarah and David, may your marriage be a chosen home. May you wake each day and choose each other freely. May your love be the antithesis of control, wild, free, and absolutely yours." The room erupted in applause, but it was the quiet nod from Grandmother Eleanor's portrait hung prominently in the foundation dining room that moved me most. As the reception continued, I mingled with our transformed family. Each conversation revealed growth. "Miguel's daughter, I'm applying to art school. Dad says following dreams matters more than following expectations." Cousin Patricia's partner, "Thank you for making it safe to be ourselves at family gatherings." A foundation resident, "6 months ago I was homeless because I chose my own career. Now I'm thriving. This place saved my life." "Proud of you," James whispered, pulling me into a dance as twilight painted the sky purple. "Look what you've built from ruins." "We built," I corrected as was my habit, "all of us." "No," he said firmly. "You led. You chose courage when it would have been easier to comply. You turned personal pain into collective healing. Own that." As we swayed to music chosen for joy, not performance, I reflected on the year's journey. The legal battles won my parents' network, dismantled dozens, freed millions, recovered. The foundation, thriving 53 families, helped emergency housing constantly, full legal aid expanding nationwide. The book published Breaking the Golden Cage, a family's journey from control to freedom, climbing bestseller lists, its proceeds funding more rescues. But beyond achievements lay personal transformations. Marcus had found his voice choosing medicine for healing, not status. Emma had become a fierce advocate, her wedding to Marcus a declaration of independence from toxic traditions. Robert had reclaimed his place in Denver, his architecture firm designing safe spaces for abuse survivors. Sophia had opened her own practice, specializing in family trauma recovery. Even Aunt Martha, in her 70s, had started speaking at senior centers about recognizing elder financial abuse. Lucille. A familiar voice interrupted my reverie. I turned to find Dr. Morrison, not Christina's father, but Dr. Sarah Morrison, the therapist who'd helped me process the trauma. She'd asked to attend to see healing in action. "This is beautiful," she said, "seeing dysfunction transformed into health. Your family story gives me hope for all my patients trapped in similar situations." "Tell them it's possible," I said. "Tell them choosing themselves isn't selfish, it's necessary, that family bonds built on truth are stronger than ones built on control." As the evening deepened, Uncle Robert clinked his glass for attention. "A toast," he announced. "1 year ago, the Martinez family as we knew it died. Good riddance." Nervous laughter rippled through the crowd. But from those ashes rose something better, a family of choice bonded by courage, rather than blood, by truth, rather than silence. He raised his glass higher. "To those still trapped in golden cages, may you find your keys. To those who've escaped, may you build something better. To Eleanor Martinez, who saw this day coming and made it possible. And to Lucille, who led us from darkness into light." "To chosen family," the room chorused. As glasses clinked and music resumed, I slipped out to the garden. The same stars that had witnessed my world crumbling now watched its rebuilding. My phone buzzed with a message from the publisher. The book hit #1 on the New York Times list. Congratulations. But it was the next message that truly mattered. From a teenager in Texas, "Your book saved me. I'm 18 tomorrow. Already packed. The foundation is helping me escape. Thank you for showing me it's possible." Another life freed, another cycle broken. Grandmother Eleanor's revenge multiplying exponentially, not through destruction, but through liberation. "There you are." Marcus found me Emma by his side. "We have news." "I'm pregnant," Emma announced, joy radiating. "Due in spring." The first Martinez grandchild raised in freedom, I breathed, hugging them both. No manipulation, no control, just love. "We're thinking Eleanor for a girl," Marcus said. "If that's okay." "It's perfect." Tears slipped down my cheeks, happy ones, healing ones. As we returned to the celebration, I caught my reflection in the window. The woman staring back bore little resemblance to the girl who'd smiled through betrayal at that long-ago party. This woman stood taller, smiled genuinely, carried herself with earned confidence. She'd faced down dragons disguised as parents and emerged not just intact, but transformed. "We'll dance." James appeared, hand extended. As he spun me under the stars, I thought about the letter I'd written that morning, my annual message to my parents in prison. Not seeking reconciliation, but offering closure. "Your choices freed me to find real family. Your cruelty taught me to recognize real love. Your theft funded the foundation helping others escape similar abuse. You failed to break me. Instead, you forged me into someone strong enough to break cycles. I forgive you not for your peace, but for mine. May you find in confinement the reflection you avoided in freedom." I'd probably never send it. Some words were meant for writing, not reading. Some forgiveness was for the forgiver, not the forgiven. "What are you thinking?" James asked as the song ended. That grandmother Eleanor was right. The best revenge isn't destruction, it's transformation, living well despite those who tried to kill our spirits. "Then we've won completely." No. I smiled watching our chosen family celebrate under constellation of lights. We're winning. Present tense. Every day someone escapes abuse, we win. Every time someone chooses truth over comfortable lies, we win. Every child raised in freedom rather than control, we win. The party continued past midnight, not because obligation demanded it, but because joy sustained it. As guests eventually departed, each goodbye carried promise. See you at Sunday dinner, voluntary potluck rotating hosts. Call if you need anything, and meaning it. Can't wait for the next gathering because we actually couldn't. Standing in the emptying garden, surrounded by the family I'd chosen and who'd chosen me, I felt grandmother Eleanor's presence. Not ghostly, but lived in the foundation bearing her name, the courage she'd instilled, the love she'd protected even from beyond. "Well, thank you," I whispered to the stars, "for seeing this day coming, for making it possible, for teaching me that sometimes the greatest inheritance isn't what we're given, but what we choose to become." A year ago, a text message had read, "Locks changed. You have no home." Now I knew the truth. Home isn't a place you're locked into or out of. It's the people who celebrate your freedom, who choose you daily, who love you without conditions. I was home. We all were. And the doors would always be open to others seeking the same freedom. The cycles of control had ended. The legacy of liberation had begun. And somewhere in the Denver night, another person trapped in family financial abuse was reading our story, recognizing their own reflection, and beginning to believe that escape was possible. The wheel had turned. The golden cage had become a launch pad, and the family party that had been meant to display our dysfunction had instead catalyzed our collective transformation. We were free, we were family, we were home. If you or someone you know is experiencing family financial abuse, you are not alone. Help exists. Your story matters. Your freedom is possible. What moment in this story resonated most with your own family experiences? Share in the comments below. Your insight might be exactly what another reader needs to recognize their own situation. If this story moved you, please like and subscribe to hear more narratives of triumph over adversity. Share this video with anyone who might need to hear that choosing themselves isn't selfish, it's necessary. Thank you for joining Lucille's journey. Remember, family should be a sanctuary, not a prison. You deserve love without conditions, support without manipulation, and the freedom to be exactly who you are. Until next time, choose courage, choose truth, choose yourself.